different people. So when you talk about food systems, we are looking at how food is produced. She says also up to the end when it is consumed. But remember, the chain does not stop at eating. We are also looking at how the waste products or the output from the food ends up. And this process involves many people. It also involves the environment. And that brings us to the other term, which is agroecology. Eve, kindly tell us, what do we mean when we talk about agroecology?
It's a very big term, actually, and it encompasses a lot of practices. It encompasses a lot of ways of thinking about the world and ways of practicing agriculture and caring about the environment. So it's a practice. It's related to thinking about agricultural systems, food systems, as part of an ecosystem. So it thinks about the ecosystem that those practices occur within. But it's not just an environmental ecosystem, it's also a cultural ecosystem, and it's also a social ecosystem. And so it's a very holistic way of thinking about food production that's not just about the plant in the ground or the food that comes out of that plant, but how all of those things are related to culture, to society, to governance, to politics, and to the environment. And so it's a very holistic idea to think about food production in a way that goes beyond just the calories and thinks about how it produces livelihoods, how it produces cultures, histories, society, really. And I think it's also a political practice because these systems that are holistic, that do think about the system as an ecosystem.
Okay, thank you very much, Eve. You know, Eve talks about this take place, and she mentions politics, she mentions culture, sovereignty, a people's way of life. And it is not just about producing food. It's about how these different elements are interlinked and ensuring that we have food, but we're also careful about our environment. Let me bring on board Mr. Opio to just tell us some of the practices in Kenya that enhance food system and agroecology. Some of the practices that we have that enhance food system and agroecology.
Thank you. I think some of the practices that enhance agroecology and food production is, I think, the involvement of the government in supporting farmers, interaction, the coming on of international organizations, which basically teach farmers on how to produce their foods without causing harm to environment, and at the same time farmers gaining what they need to gain from their farms.
Thank you very much. Mr. P has talked about governance. He's also talking about education of farmers. And we know that when we talk about food system, you have to produce food. So people must have knowledge. So agroecology encompasses all that, the different partners that are interlinked, and how this eventually ends up in making our ecosystem a better place to live in. And maybe I would like to bring us to the realities on the ground. We are very much alive to climatic variations and climate change and how this impacts the world in general. I don't know if in Canada, what is the experience of farmers when it comes to food system as we speak today? Do the farmers find it easy to produce food, and what are some of the challenges that they face?
That's a great question. Unfortunately, I can't speak much to Canadian farmers because most of the farmers that I work with are in Brazil. So I can talk a little bit about the experiences that Brazilian farmers face. And I think that there is, when we're thinking about agroecology and we're thinking about food production, there's often a disconnect between the policies that government puts forward and the realities of life on the ground. And so the challenges are often getting access to markets where there's a fair price or fair value put on the product that they produce. There's challenges in relation to the profession of farming as being seen as something that's a noble profession. Often it's seen as something that poor people do. Or you're a big agricultural production, small-scale farmers are often seen as being impoverished rather than understanding their intimate relationship that they have with the environment in which they work, and then the knowledges that they've cultivated over generations. And so the farmers that I work with in Brazil, that our team works with, they're very much aware of the fact that the products that they produce aren't necessarily valued, not only for the food value, but for also all the other ecosystem services and socio-environmental services that they provide, because the farmers in particular that we work with work in agroforestry systems. And so they don't just produce food, they don't just produce the products from that go to the table, but they also produce an ecosystem that offers water, biodiversity, nutrient cycling, and all of those things. And so those more intimate relationships that they have with the environment are not recognized or valued.
Okay, it's interesting to learn that farmers in Brazil are very much aware of their contribution towards the entire environment, and in their production system they look at the entire ecosystem. I don't know whether that is the same in Kenya. Dr. Florence, how do we see food system practices in Kenya, maybe listening to what we hear from Brazil?
Thank you so much, Mary. The story of Kenya could be a little different from that of Brazil. Brazil talks about having a lot of professional farmers, but Kenya, much of the farming community, a lot of farmers are not so well educated. Actually, in Kenya, the mindset is that farming is for those who have not gone to school and the elderly. So you find those who are highly educated, many of them do not embark on farming. And so you find that many of the Kenyan farmers, they do farming with very little knowledge about farming, little knowledge about the environment. And for them, farming is a livelihood, not even, for them, farming is about meeting subsistence requirements. So many of them also don't look at farming like a commercial enterprise. And so that brings out such a big difference between the farming community in Kenya and Brazil. And when you talk about the food system in Kenya and the farming practices of our farmers, the Kenyan farmers, most of them are smallholders. Actually, it is reported that close to 80% of farmers in Kenya are smallholder farmers, and majority of them are women. And because of that, they face a lot of challenges that make them or hinder them from contributing well towards fully meeting the outcomes of the food system. At the production level, one of the challenges that the food system in Kenya is facing is low productivity. Mm-hmm. And this is brought about by practices that are carried out by farmers, practices that lead to soil degradation, environmental degradation, soil degradation, and out of all these factors, the outcome is that productivity is very low. And so a lot of the impacts to the environment are as a result of the food system, which contributes to about 60% of carbon gas emissions. And so the food system in Kenya has a lot of gaps, but also opportunities for transformation.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You've mentioned quite a very important matter, mentioning that Kenya, smallholder farmers are the majority, and these are the people who feed much of the population of the country because they produce, food for subsistence, and that is what enhances food security. But apparently you're talking about certain gaps and certain, challenges that these farmers experience. You've also mentioned that majority of these smallholder farmers are women. I don't know if the youth participate in farming, and to what extent do the youth contribute to food system in Kenya. We are blessed to have Mr. Opio here, who is a youth. What's your take on the contribution of the youth towards food security and food system in Kenya?
Okay, thank you. I think the contribution of youth towards food system has been very low, and that is actually why we are trying to encourage farmers to really get involved in food system. And the challenge of youths, why they have not been actively involved in agriculture, I think one of them is lack of knowledge and awareness about agriculture. Most of them view agriculture as a thing of the past and which would only be done with the poor people. Like they are not aware of the modern knowledge, new agricultural techniques. And just as I was saying yesterday, the politics is now coming in agriculture, where in our country we know youths are very active during politics, where they get some tokenism out of it. But that one we really know is being caused by lack of employment. Yeah, and now young youths are really engaging in family, and they are getting family at early ages, and you know they really have to support their family. And some of them see agriculture as a long process. So agriculture involves plowing land. The food system is not as simple as people may see it. So youth usually see it as very tiresome, and now they rush to activities which can really give them quick money to maybe support their family and do the rest.
That's a young farmer. That's a young farmer from Kenya saying that agriculture and the whole system is laborious. It involves a lot. And so it will be important for us to hear what happens in Brazil. How do the youth come in? Are they part of the production? Are they part of the food system? What do you find happening in Brazil, Eve?
So many of the farmers that we work with are often elderly as well, because we work particularly with traditional food systems. And so we work in an area where there is a traditional system that's been continued for generations. So it's not necessarily a modern farming practice. It's something that has been developed for over many, many years, taking information and in knowledge from indigenous communities and building on that. And so a lot of the youth think that the system, the traditional system, is actually, like David said, outdated and not modern. But it's a system that has lasted for so long, and it's developed over time. So it's not static. It has changed. It's just it's been able to maintain levels of productivity, excellent products, without having to completely revolutionize what's being done. So a lot of the youth don't see it as a viable alternative for their lives, for their well-being, for their livelihoods. But we're trying to change that perception by demonstrating how important these systems, traditional systems, are to the continuation of forests, to the continuation of indigenous seeds, to indigenous varieties, and also the potential for gaining a good living doing the work of traditional systems. So we recently gained recognition as a globally important agricultural heritage system from the Food and Agricultural Organization of the United Nations. And that, I think, to many young people, that it is a viable alternative, and that it does have importance for the region, but for the world, to be globally recognized as something that's important for the world. And so I think that the young people are starting to see it as a potential for the future. And like I said, it's a traditional system, but there is room to innovate, to grow. It's not a static thing that we don't want to change. We want it to change. We want it to develop, but to be based on those principles of agroecology, of valuing and recognizing the knowledge that has been developed over generations, and how that is so intimately tied to the ecosystem in the forest where it occurs.
So if you maybe become specific, what are the specific things that the Brazilian communities do, particularly the youth, to enhance their participation in food system?
There's a lot of young people who actually leave the farm to do agronomy degrees. And what we're finding is many of them are coming back to the farm after finishing their degrees. And they're interested in taking some of the knowledge that they've learned from the university and integrating that with the farming practices that their parents, their grandparents have been doing. So doing innovation in that way. So they're producers. We do have some issues with youth engagement in collective organizations, but I feel like that's starting to change, particularly with young women. So we're seeing young women getting involved in women's organizations. and starting to participate in collective organization, in the farmers' unions, in the cooperatives, in a more kind of
engagement.
Yes.
They get engaged.
Yes.
So is this done by the communities, or it's spearheaded by learning institutions or the government?
It comes from the grassroots. It comes from the communities.
The communities take the initiative to engage the youth in these farms.
Yes.
Okay. Maybe let's just bring on board Dr. Florence. Your experience in Kenya. I know you work in a university and you know about the policies in Kenya and how these policies help us to, propel food system. Comparing to what we see in Brazil, who makes decision on how to, on who participate in these activities? And if we are to borrow from Brazil, where the youth are being encouraged from the community, what is it like in Kenya?
Thank you, Maureen. In Kenya, it's close to, it resonates with what Brazil is doing to some extent. In Kenya, governance begins at the national level, which is okay, which is good. You remember our constitution, it really begins with our constitution that states, the Bill of Rights states that every Kenyan has a right to food.
Yeah.
Yes, so it begins from there. And every other policy that is developed then is anchored on our constitution. So with our constitution, we have the government coming up with policies, the national government, and the county government then picks up what the national government is doing and the agendas of the national government, and then they develops or formulates policies also which are built on what the national government is doing. So the county government, once they have developed their own policy, then they are mandated to implement it within the county. But don't forget that we have different scales of governance. So after the county government, even within the county itself, we have different levels of governance. We have sub-counties, we have ward levels, we have villages and smaller communities. We have private sector associations, and then we have farmers,
and
farmer or producer groups.
Yes.
Or
all engaged.
they have their own decision-making organs at their own level. Then you're talking about the family level, who makes decisions at the family level. Traditionally, in the Kenyan families, it is the man who makes decisions. Of course, we have families which are headed by other groups like female-headed. Then it is the head of the family who makes decisions. And so it depends on at what level we are talking about. Yeah, but majorly, everything that is supposed to happen within the country begins with the national government, and then at the county level, decisions are made by the counties,
so
which then are supposed to be cascaded downwards. And what affects the people on the ground, from the top, the ground people are not included. Unfortunately, yes.
That is it, and I think that's what makes the difference between the Brazilian situation, because if says that this participation by the youth is enhanced at the community level, it means it's at the community level that we are able to get this youth to enable them participate in decision making and also in ensuring that the youth are engaged in food system. But in Kenya, we see a situation where the decision is, other than at the family level, much of the decision is pegged on what the government says, the policy. And as Florence puts it, in Kenya, governance and policy decisions are at the top. So this shows, a big discrepancy between who makes policies and who's supposed to participate. Maybe as we want to wind up this conversation today, we would like to ask Mr. Opio, you are a youth. What do you think? What are some of the mechanisms that you think we can use in Kenya, borrowing from Brazil, to ensure that our youth also participate in food system? Because we are talking about sustainability. And if we do not engage the youth, then the good practices that are there perhaps may be lost. And even if we leave alone the good practices, there is the element of bringing food on the table. What can we do? What can the youth do? What can the country do? What can the county governments do? What can the communities do?
Okay, thank you. I think one major thing I've learned from Brazil, I think, is how they try to guide their students maybe those who are joining colleges, how do they try to guide them towards their career? And most of them should be guided towards agriculture-oriented careers, so that they take agricultural courses in the universities and colleges, technical institutions, so that after learning these informations, then obvious with urbanization, most of them will go to town, but at least some will go to the village to take the real information which farmers are really missing. Then youths will also be involved in the system of agriculture, like for the county government, they should also employ youths in their agricultural positions, like agricultural board officers. Youths should be there, so that really those who are going to school learning and seeing their friends or relatives getting jobs in agriculture, then that one can really motivate them. And if we have more learned youths in our societies, then the information will spread the way it should be.
Involving the youth is one critical element we're talking about in enhancing food security and food system. But Florence mentioned something which I would like to emphasize, that at the community level and at the family levels, we also have to make decisions. And the question we are asking our audience is that, what do you do at the family level? For parents, do you engage the youth in participating in agriculture so that they grow up socialized agriculturally? Like in Brazil, we see that the youth are participating. So our Kenyan government has come up with many policies and doing a lot in provision of funds that the youth can borrow. In Kenya, this amount of money can be spent by the youth to spend in agricultural activities. And I would like to appreciate the conversation that has been done here, but without forgetting to just ask Dr. Florence to tell us just a little about this youth need to have some new knowledge, but at the same time should also have some indigenous knowledge. How do we transfer this indigenous knowledge from the older generation to the youth? Is it being transferred?
Thank you, Dr. Maren. Really, the problem of youth not being involved in agriculture, I think, is a problem that really needs to be addressed. About 60% of farmers in Kenya are elderly, above 60 years. And with that statistics, if nothing is done, then we'll have a transition period where we no longer have people producing food.
Agriculture, yeah.
And so we need to take very active and deliberate measures to ensure that our young people are included and made to really participate actively in the food system. Several efforts can be made. One, let us begin with the curriculum. For a period of time, the Kenyan curriculum, beginning at primary level, there was no agriculture, all the way to high school. And agriculture was only introduced at
secondary school,
at university, or at
secondary school.
Secondary school and at TVET. Secondary school, it was also not compulsory.
Yes.
So you only find a few of the students wanting to learn agriculture.
Yes.
And so the serious agriculture that has been taught is at the university level or at the TVET level. But so policies, we are grateful to the government, even for the CBE education, because now we have a new curriculum design, and agriculture has been given more emphasis. And so we are hoping that with that kind of orientation of young children right from primary school, then we are inducting them and socializing them into the food system culture. And so as we move on to high school, again, there is more emphasis. But then at the university level, we are also hoping that something can be done to create more awareness so that more of our young people become interested in programs which are embedded within the food system. Agriculture is one of them.
Okay.
So I think efforts, just like David has already mentioned something. We need to do something. We need to reach out to these young people, those who are in high school and leaving high school,
Okay.
to be able to choose these programs which are food systems embedded,
Okay.
so that then we are able to have more people coming into the system. But for those who are already outside, I want to say that let's create dialogue with them, and let's create platforms that can be able to lure these young people, to convince them, to attract them, to be able to get interested in agriculture. Let's bring in technologies. David has said that agriculture is toil. It's toil. That is the mindset that our young people have, and we know we have a generation of young people who don't want to do much. They
work.
They don't want to overindulge.
Yes.
They want easy things. So if we bring in technologies, I believe that would probably interest them.
Okay.
Let's digitize agriculture as much as possible. Many of our young people love
digital technology.
Yeah, digital technology. And as we come into digitize agriculture, I think we will be able to arouse their interest. The other day, we were sharing with one of our colleagues in Canada, and she was showing me that in their farms right now they are using robots. And so the robot is programmed to be able to do any of the tasks that needs to be done, whether it's planting or digging or weeding or harvesting. So you just have a robot and you set it, and then it does what needs to be done in the farm. If we can move to those levels of technological use, I'm sure many of our young people will be attracted. Yeah, okay. And so some of those are some of the efforts that really need to be taken up by all players in the food system, whether it's government, whether it's a private sector, whether it's a community, or even families.
Everybody. Just everybody.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Dr. Florence, for those insights. Viewers, what is coming on in this discussion is that socialization processes got to bring the youth on board if you're going to have our food system being sustainable. We're talking about sustainability here. We talked about agroecology, which is critical in ensuring that we have a sustainable society. We've talked about the challenges that agricultural practitioners face across the globe, and some of them are similar, like you've talked about inadequate resources and all that. But there is a difference between what is practiced in Brazil and in Kenya. The differences are not very big, but we can learn from each other. One of the differences we see is that the community level, they take initiative and the decisions start from the community going upwards, and we can see that we can borrow from that. Today, that has been a very fruitful discussion on sustainable food system and agroecology. We've learned a lot, and we believe that we're going to learn more from these episodes in our next discussion. As we come to the end, I would like to again thank our guests today for coming on board and being very, very helpful in unpacking what it means when you talk about food system, what we talk about in agroecology, and how we want to enhance sustainable food systems within our society. I would like them to just say their final words as we end this show. Tell us who you are, and where you practice from, and your last words. Let's begin with Florence.
Thank you, Dr. Maren. Just like we began, my names are Dr. Florence Odiwuor. I'm a researcher and a faculty based at Rongo University, and I do farming as well. But my last word, I have a passion for transforming the food system, because we know that the food system in Kenya has not been very efficient. And now we are grappling with a lot of negative outcomes. But I want to say that let us all put effort to contribute to the transformation of our food systems, because once we have a transformed system, then we will be able to have enough food to feed all our people. We will be able to solve the problem of triple burden of malnutrition that is already in the country. we will be able to take care of our environment. And when we do that, then we will be talking about healthy populations.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Taking
you.
care of the environment, very critical. Your last words, Eve.
Thank you. So my name is Dr. Eve Nimmo. I'm an anthropologist and archaeologist, a professor at the Department of Anthropology at the University of Alberta in Canada. And I want to thank you. It's been an honor to be able to share with you today our thoughts, and for inviting me to participate in this podcast. And I think my last thoughts for today are that we have to think about our young people like we think about plants or seedlings. We have to cultivate. We have to cultivate the conditions for them to live good lives, to have the potential for prosperity as farmers, as people working with the food system. And so I think if we take that metaphor and apply it to us as people, our families, our communities, then I think that gives us a little bit hope for the future.
Thank you very much. Cultivating the young. Your last word, Mr. Pio.
Okay, I'm David Pio. I come from Suda East in Migori County. I am a farmer. I also have the opportunity to work as a research assistant. So my last word to fellow farmers, let us accept the reality that technology is the way to go, and let us be ready to raise this of new technologies which has been brought for us by the supporters and the international organizations. Let us adopt them in our farms. Let us try, let us not fear, because that's the only way something can be adopted. By trying first, then we see the result, and we continue from there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, our viewers. Thank you very much, our guests. That is the end of our episode today. We welcome you next time. Bye for now.
Thank you. Oh, it is very warm.
This my bottle is very hot.
At the beginning, I think he said it, but you reduced it.
What? TubeBuddy. It does everything for you. SEO optimization, helps you with your thumbnail.